Live, this is 24-hour News 8.
New at 6 o'clock, our Target 8 investigation could lead to charges in the decades-old murder of a Kalamazoo teen.
Carol Ann Cole, she left her home in West Michigan back in 1980. She headed south. A year later, hundreds of miles away, Bossier doe was found in the Louisiana woods.
Now, our investigation is following in her footsteps more than 30 years later and uncovering details police never knew. Information that points straight to the possible killer.
Tonight, Target 8 investigator Ken Colker is live in Louisiana, breaking this story wide open. Ken?
I'm at the Bossier Parish Sheriff's Department, where detectives say they're trying to determine if the information that we recovered is enough to charge a man with Carol Ann Cole's murder.
Do you think your dad did this?
Yes.
Frances O'Quan was 13 when she and her older brother discovered the body in the woods not far from where they lived with their father, John Chason, and their mom. That was in January 1981. Their dad, she says, had taken them out hunting, something she had never done before, and he told them exactly where to walk.
He stopped and said, okay, well, y'all get out. I want y'all to walk this way, and I'm gonna stay on the road and go this way. We weren't too far into the woods when we stumbled upon her.
A fully clothed skeleton, partially covered in leaves. They both screamed. Police say she had been stabbed at least 9 times.
I look back, he's still on the road looking at us.
She is convinced her dad sent them back there to find the body. It's a story that she kept to herself. Here's another part of the story she didn't tell until now. When she saw the photograph of Carol Ann Cole after police identified her last month, she had a flashback. That, she says, was the girl her dad had picked up hitchhiking about a month before the discovery.
I just remember picking her up. I think I was like age of 13. She was on the side of the road. We'd stopped and pick her up. I remember getting in the middle of the truck, her getting in.
Detectives say she didn't tell them about this when they recently interviewed her. After we contacted detectives, they called her back and now say they may have enough to take the case to a grand jury. Now, John Chason already had been identified as a person of interest in this case. He is serving life in prison for stabbing an elderly woman to death in 1997. Now, tonight at 11, how fear and suppressed memories help keep this a secret. Live in Bossier Parish, Louisiana, Ken Colker, 24-hour News 8.
Earlier at 6, you heard from the woman who found the body. She told 24-hour News 8 that her dad picked up Carol Ann Cole a month earlier. Tonight, she says, suppressed memories and fear of her father kept her quiet until tonight.
Target 8 investigator Ken Colker and photojournalist Ron Swanson are breaking this story in Bossier Parish. Ken?
Frances O'Quan says her memories about her time with Carol Ann Cole started returning shortly after the woman was recently identified.
She's very sweet. Yeah. I remember her being sweet.
Now, 34 years later, after seeing a photograph of Carol Ann Cole, she told Target 8 she also remembers her face.
I saw her picture. It was like living a flashback all in 1 second.
That was the girl hitchhiking in Bossier Parish, she says.
She had a bag. I remember her having a bag, like a satchel, like a purse, hobo bag type.
She says her dad, John Chason, stopped his pickup truck and that the girl slid in next to Frances, who was 13 at the time.
And of course, the other people hit hard by all of this, Carol Ann's family. This has been a lot of information they've had to ingest in just a short amount of time. I sat down with her sister tonight in Kalamazoo right after she learned these new details.
Tears rolled down Jeannie Phelps' face. For the first time, she's seeing the person who found her sister's body.
Is it baffling to think that it's taken this long for this information to come out?
It is. It's very troubling. Very troubling.
For a West Michigan family, the 34-year search was all-consuming. How could a teenage girl just disappear? Why weren't police helping? And for police 1,000 miles away in Louisiana, the 34-year search to identify the skeletal remains of a murdered girl seemed hopeless. Was anyone looking for her?
The unidentified remains became known as Bossier Doe. Tonight, we will take you to Louisiana for an unprecedented look inside the investigation that led police to finally identify Bossier Doe as Carol Ann Cole, that missing teen from Kalamazoo. It's a murder that could be closer to being solved after Target 8's interview with a key witness. Target 8 investigator Ken Kolker has tonight's story. Ken?
Yeah, it's a missing persons case that could have been solved decades ago if not for mistakes by a medical examiner and frustrating roadblocks put up by some of the very police agencies that were supposed to help. It was finally solved thanks to equal parts persistence and equal parts luck, or perhaps, as some of the key players believe, providence.
I believe that God wanted this child to be identified. It was time for her to have a name.
We will take you to where she was found.
We're looking at each other and I said, it's a body. It's a body.
Tell you how an FBI profiler's bad theory sent detectives down the wrong path for years.
He felt like it was some type of Native American ritual.
Take you to the Louisiana lab that rebuilt her face.
For this to all fall into place, it's almost a miracle. Almost a miracle.
Then there are the miracle workers, a friend who refused to give up, an obsessive detective who saw Facebook as her last chance, and a police dispatcher who, while sick at home, did something in 7 hours that nobody could do in 34 years. Put a name to a face using a phone app.
I sat up in bed and I don't know why, and I said, I'm gonna solve this.
Growing up near Kalamazoo, Carol Ann Cole was a big sister who helped keep her little sister Jeannie out of trouble. They played lots of rummy in Cat's Cradle, watched Little House on the Prairie.
She was in love with Sean Cassidy. Oh my God, she joined the Sean Cassidy fan club. She just thought she was top notch.
Then in 1979, Carol Ann, who was 15 at the time, moved to San Antonio, Texas with her mom. Her sister had to stay behind in Kalamazoo with their grandmother.
I know she didn't want to leave me forever. We were too close. We were never apart as kids, up until that day.
Texas wasn't good for Carol Ann, who kept running away from her mom before landing in a home for troubled girls in Austin. Even after running away from that home, though, Carol Ann kept calling and writing her grandmother and sister. The last call came from a home in Shreveport in December 1980.
They had taken her in and she was babysitting, and then one day she just left and never returned.
The calls and letters stopped. Her grandma called police in Texas and all around Shreveport, Louisiana, even the Bossier Parish Sheriff's Department.
She could never get anybody just to take initial report and get her placed in NCIC, which would have started the ball rolling a long time ago.
Unlike other missing people, Carol Ann Cole's name never made it into the National Crime Information Center's database.
She was so sad about it. I just didn't want her to be sad anymore.
It's almost like Patty Thorington was planted in Jeannie Phelps' life for one purpose. She was 15 without a place to stay when Jeannie took her in years ago.
And I just don't think I wanted her to be lost. You know, my sister was lost, so I don't want to see somebody else get lost.
Aww. I love you.
Thorington vowed to find her friend's long-lost sister. Maybe Craigslist could help. After the break, a police dispatcher 1,000 miles away makes a match.
I looked at that and I said, that's her.
And welcome back. So as a woman in Kalamazoo searched for her long-lost sister, police in Bossier Parish, Louisiana had their own mystery. Who was this girl who had been stabbed 9 times?
Why, more than 30 years later, did the body still not have a name? Our Target 8 investigation continues.
Okay, let's start at page number 1. Page number 1 says, this person found them. Let's go find those people.
Lieutenant Shannon Mack reopened the cold case last June.
She's a human being and nobody deserves to be forgotten.
This is where John Chason's kids discovered the body in January 1981, after he had taken them hunting around the corner from where they lived.
We weren't too far into the woods when we stumbled upon her.
A skeleton, partially covered with leaves. Frances Aquan was 13 at the time.
We panicked, not knowing what it was, screaming. Yeah. I'm still confused. Where's my dad? Looking back, he's still standing on the road looking at us.
Her father was not a person of interest. His daughter said police didn't talk to her. Detectives tried to match the bones with names. On their list of possibles, Carol Ann Cole, a 17-year-old Kalamazoo girl who had disappeared from nearby Shreveport. Her grandmother had called Bossier Parish deputies 2 weeks before the body was found. Had they seen her? It's still not clear why the medical examiner ruled her out. He is dead and his records burned in a fire. Then there was the FBI profiler who said evidence suggested she was Native American and killed in a ritual. That evidence, the kitchen knife apparently used to kill her, was left nearby, stuck in the ground, covered by a towel.
So the FBI profiler thought that that was burying the hatchet.
That's pretty much where it stood when Lieutenant Mack picked up the case, came up with the name Bossier Doe, and in early February of this year, created a Facebook page.
Did you give it any chance? I mean, really? I mean, was this like a Hail Mary pass or something?
It was just let's think outside the box.
She used an image from the Faces Lab at Louisiana State University, which for the first time had recreated a face using only a photograph of the skull and Photoshop, not the skull itself.
I almost feel like I know her, and I know that might sound funny to some people, but the early cases really stick in your mind.
They relied on science, specific measurements for the thickness of skin.
Between your eyes, it's about 4 millimeters thick.
A formula to rebuild her nose.
How it came so close to Miss Cole is truly remarkable. I mean, this has never happened before, for it to come that close.
Which left her wondering, how could this body remain nameless for so long?
Think about, where are the family members for this person? Are family members still alive? Are family members trying to find her?
They were, with help from family friend Patty Thorington. Last November, she posted a Craigslist ad with Carol Cole's photograph anywhere she thought the teen would have been, including the Shreveport area. But would anyone ever connect that Craigslist ad with that Facebook page? That page created by the Bossier cop? That page with that lifelike composite?
911, do you have an emergency?
In February, Bossier Parish 911 dispatcher Linda Erickson was home with bronchitis, not able to sleep. First, she noticed that new Facebook page.
What struck me the most about this story was her age, and that someone did this horrible thing, and that nobody knew who she was.
7 hours later, she woke and checked Craigslist, as she did most days, and there was this ad with a picture of Carol Ann Cole, a name she had never heard, with a face that looked a little familiar.
So in my phone, I had both separate pictures, and I was flipping back and forth.
She downloaded an app that merges photographs.
When I did that, I knew. I said, that's her. I just looked at her, It was kind of overwhelming, honestly.
The news spread quickly to Carol Ann's sister and her friend. DNA confirmed Carol Ann was Bossier Doe.
She was loved as Bossier Doe for 35 years. And they didn't even know who she was.
Still, Patty feared that knowing the truth, that Carol Ann had been murdered, might be worse.
Do you think it was worse for you, though, Jeannie? Or?
No. No, it wasn't worse. You did the right thing.
Now, John Chason, whose daughter found the body, has become a focus of that murder investigation. We have an interactive timeline of this case on woodtv.com. Tomorrow morning on Daybreak, we find out why it took 34 years to list Carol Ann Cole as missing.
Ken, what strikes you in this story is that time passes. 34 years passed. But people on both sides of this always wondered, what happened and who was this?
Right. Yeah, it was interesting how they had these parallel things going on, 1,000 miles apart, and neither one knew the other one was working on it.
It really is.
Yeah, it's just
and to
amazing.
see it all just unfold in those two stories of yours is just incredible, because so many questions had come up in just those few times we've been able to piece this story together. Unbelievable, incredible work.
Thank you.
So how long does it take to file a missing persons report when a loved one disappears? For the family of Carol Ann Cole of Kalamazoo, 34 years. Last night at 11 o'clock, Target 8 took you inside the investigation that finally identified that teen and brought her body home from the Deep South, where she was known as Bossier Doe. Well, brand new this morning, police in Louisiana say they likely would have identified her remains long ago, saving her family years of misery had she only been listed as missing. Here's Ken Coker.
The problem is Carol Ann was not in any type of database. I'd never seen her before. And I pretty much thought I saw every missing person from about 1970 to 1981.
Every missing person?
Every white female missing person I have looked at in a database.
In what area?
In Canada, all over the United States.
Oh, you're talking
Mexico.
like North. Oh.
I've looked at a couple from Australia.
Lieutenant Shannon Mack started working the cold case last year. The mystery of the unidentified remains of a girl discovered in January 1981 in Bossier Parish, Louisiana. She had a composite of a face based on the skull, photographs of her clothes, dental records, even DNA from the pulp of her teeth. But a match was not possible, at least not through traditional means. Carol Ann's sister, Jeannie, says her grandmother tried filing missing person reports almost immediately in Texas, where Carol Ann was living with her mom, and in Shreveport, Louisiana, where she was last known to stay. She says she tried herself in the 1980s and 90s.
Nobody would take a missing persons report, and something needs to change there.
She wanted her sister listed in NamUs, a relatively new national database that tries to match missing persons with unidentified bodies. But she couldn't without an official missing persons report. Her sister wasn't even in the FBI's National Crime Information Center.
And would it have helped if she had been in there earlier?
It would have, because it would have matched her height, her weight, the time period she went missing, her gender, her age, and it would have kicked us back an NCIC hit and said, hey, you might want to look at this person. So yeah, it would have helped.
NamUs is a federally funded program that lists nearly 10,000 unidentified bodies across the U.S. and 11,000 missing persons. That includes about 300 unidentified bodies and 400 missings in Michigan alone. A NamUs director believes there are hundreds more unreported missings, in part because police don't always take the reports, though he says that doesn't happen as often as it used to. He says it's often a question of jurisdiction.
So I can see that they might be a little reluctant if they felt there's no local tie, because the family's going to expect some action out of that agency, and quite honestly, there might not be a whole lot that they can do.
Finally, in February, Kalamazoo Township Police took Carol Ann Cole's missing persons report as a courtesy, even though that department had nothing to do with the case. As it turns out, though, it was Facebook and a Craigslist ad, not that missing persons report, that led to the identification.
People ought to be able to report somebody missing from whatever jurisdiction just to get somebody in a national database, and we'll figure out where she went missing later.
That was Ken Coker reporting. NamUs open to the public so you can check lists of missing persons and unidentified remains yourself. It is set up to even take DNA from family of missing people at no cost to see if it matches with the DNA of unidentified bodies. We have a link to the program. It's on our website right now, woodtv.com.